All right, good morning, everybody. So today I wanted to show you how to create your own Next.js boilerplate. I've had some people ask me about how to get this set up, and I think with the ease of some of these commands that are available, you don't need to go and spend your time looking for GitHub repos with these tools set up. So what you can see here is my markdown document with all the install commands or the tech stack that I'd like to create for this boilerplate. And we have our shell here on the right and our file list on the left. And as you can see here, we are in Visual Studio Code, which is the primary IDE I use now, especially since I migrated completely over to Claude Code. I am no longer using Cursor. So let's get started. Before we start running these commands, I want to just explain to you what the tech stack actually is. We're going to be installing Next.js 15, which is the latest version. I believe it's 15.5.2 or something around there. Shadcn for our components library. We are using Auth for authentication. You have a lot of different authentication options out there. Obviously, the most popular one right now is Supabase, but I migrated away from there for a variety of reasons. And so with Auth, it's just as good, if not better. I'm really liking the plugins that they offer. So for example, to try and do Magic Link in Supabase, you have to upgrade your account, et cetera, et cetera. But with Auth, it's just a matter of getting the plugin installed and configuring it to use Magic Link with the default authentication system Auth provides. So then I'm using Neon for the actual PostgreSQL database instead of using Supabase. And I'm using Drizzle ORM to help with the schema management. You don't have to use that. You can just go straight to Neon. You don't need any of the ORMs. Drizzle is similar to Prisma. So if you use an ORM, you're going to be familiar with a couple of those options there. So we got back again, Next.js, Shadcn, Auth, Neon for Postgres, Drizzle for ORM. And as you can see here, I'm also going to install Resend, which is our email platform. A couple options you may want to consider is PostHog for analytics, and obviously Google Analytics in addition to that as well. So let's get started in creating a boilerplate. So first command here is getting our Next.js app started. And there are a couple extra commands. I'm going to do the interactive install instead of adding all the other components here like TypeScript, et cetera. But the thing I do want to add here is the little dot after this command, which means it will install into the root folder of my project here in Microsoft Visual Studio Code. And then because I already have a docs folder, I'm just going to tell it to force the install and not worry about any existing folders. So let's get that started. And we will see, yes, I want TypeScript. I want ESLint. So these are just defaults you want to use. Tailwind, yes. I do want to use the source directory. I do want to use the new app router instead of the page router. I believe it flipped over in Next.js 14 over to app router. So choose all these defaults. I also do use TurboPack. Some people recommend not to use it, but I just follow whatever Next.js recommends, right? So I went through this so that you guys can actually see what these options look like. So I'm going to pause here and then come back once this install is done. All right, Next.js has finished installing, and as you guys can see here, we do have all our folders ready with our source folder and our app folder with all the default files. So that is ready to go. The next thing we want to do is install our Shadcn. So next command, let that run, and then I will be back once that is done. Okay, so I do want to show you guys some of the default settings. As you can see here, Shadcn recognized that we are setting up a Next.js project with Tailwind version 4. And typically I just go with the neutral color here, and it's up to you. You guys can go look at the Shadcn documentation. As you can see here, I actually collected the documentation links so that I can refer back to them quickly and not have to go do that search again. So take a look at the color variations that you would prefer for your project. Obviously, that's going to change once you get to the actual design system for the project. But again, that's a good starting point for you guys to take a look at. Okay, Shadcn has completed. We have our default installation. It's added some more files to our directory. And next, we're going to go ahead and install Auth. And so just overall, if you guys think about it, if you've selected your tech stack, and in this case, we're using a few other things that are not the default Supabase, but you could do very similar things with whatever tech stack you've decided to use. If it's not Next.js, maybe you're using Nuxt or some other framework, but whatever it is, I think putting together a list of these install commands and having that as part of your docs folder is going to be very helpful, especially if you do include documentation links. And as you get into the coding part with Claude Code or whatever tool you're using, these links become very handy as your project is getting set up. All right, so it looks like Auth finished. Then next we're going to go into installing the Drizzle packages. Okay, let me get these running. So this Drizzle ORM package is so that it can work with Neon. And there's some very specific documentation on Neon in using Drizzle with PostgreSQL. So take a look at those. Again, this may not be your tech stack, but if it's something different or it is your tech stack, I highly recommend looking at the documentations so that you have an understanding of what it is you're working with. And also by understanding it better, you're going to be able to guide your AI coding partner a lot better. So just keep that in mind, and we will be back once this finishes installing. All right, that is finished. And now let's actually install the Drizzle kit, and then we'll move on to resend. And I think I'll be back once I'm done with both of these because there are no configurations or options to consider when you're installing these. Be right back. Okay, I'm done going through all the install commands. As you guys can see here, the last thing was install resend. So let's move this PowerShell over to our tabs list here. And so you guys can see also the README is just very default. So this now means that all the tech stack I want to start with has been installed, right? So all these install commands are done. So now what? What do I do here? I have a very basic file system here. And then at this point, I want to start up Claude Code. And as you guys can see, once this gets started, the first thing I want to do now that I have my foundational tech stack done is run an init so that Claude can understand what stack it is going to be working with for this project. So let's give it a second to get started. If you guys aren't aware of how to set this up, which is the Claude Code status line, there is actually a command called status line in Claude Code. You can see here right there. So if you run that command, it'll walk you through and help you set up this type of status line. I've customized mine a bit, where you can see we've got the model name, we've got the price for this session, how long this session has been going, the current folder, the GitHub branch that we're working with, current time and date, and the version of Claude Code that we're currently on. And this last bit of information is the current session that we're dealing with. All right. So it has properly started. You guys can see here that it's connected to the IDE. And so, yeah, let's get this set up to start working with our new Boilerplate project. So it's going to read through your project file directory, get an understanding for what it is it's working with. And so you can see here, we have a very basic Boilerplate project with the tech stack that we want to be working with. So this is all you guys really have to do. You don't need to go spend hours searching for a GitHub repository. Pick this tech stack you want to work with, go find the install commands and just get that set up. You don't need any AI to do that. It's just getting the default foundation set up and preparing Claude Code or whatever project if it's Cursor, then you want to set up your instructions, right? Cursor instructions, very similar thing. But whatever it is, get the foundation set up properly, and then you're going to have a much better time proceeding from there and building on top of that. All right. Hope that helps. See you in the next video. Thanks.